All right, welcome back to another Stormgate cast. My name is Algorithmor, and we're watching a ladder match between two streamers. Both of these players were streaming while this match went on, and I was able to watch this on Dutchy's stream. Dutchy's a fan of mine, or friend of mine. Hope he's a fan of mine too, but he's a friend of mine. And I was watching his stream and saw this fun match and asked him, hey, send me that replay. What we have here is STylloO in the blue Infernals. STylloO is a Russian player, and you can catch his stream usually a little bit late at night because he's from Russia, so he streams on Russian times. But if you're up at that time, go and check him out. Now, he's got a really interesting build. One of the reasons I wanted to cast these games, not only do they have some good action in them, but there are some really fun builds out of STylloO. Not only is he, a streamer, but you can catch him experimenting with all kinds of fun builds. And a lot of his builds, like this, have imps marching across the map. And a very cool thing, we can just see this Lancer does not get to see this this is a little bit of cheese happening here. And what do we have here? We've got a Shroud Stone and a meat farm. The meat farm's going to protect the Shroud Stone, which just lets that Shroud Stone do an additional damage. And, well, I'm not sure what you're going to do here other than prevent the natural, but let's stay tuned to see what these are going to do. We've got a dog of Dutchy now in the base, and that Hexen decides to teleport back. Maybe to chase away the dog, but more likely to just get started creeping. Now the dog's looking for some kind of expansion, probably because now Dutchy is playing Vanguard in this match. But Dutchy plays all three factions, and because of that, I think when you play all three factions, you know the timings of the other factions very well. So he knows the timings of Infernal and saw only a single farm and a single vault, which is very suspicious. You should at least have two vaults, a vault conclave, maybe a shrine. If you don't have many production, you should have a shrine. He ran his dog around, couldn't find any of that. So hopefully for Dutchy, that's put him a little bit suspicious, but without scouting around and finding those extra proxy buildings that we have up here, he's probably still in the dark as to what that really means. We finally do have a shrine going down from STylloO, and of course this is at the standard expansion that it took us a few weeks to figure out the expansion patterns on these maps, and this is going to be the standard one. Now, here in the next patch, there's going to be changes to Isle of Dread, so stay tuned to some of my future videos for whatever that new version of Isle of Dread is going to look like. I'm kind of excited for that. They've taken Jagged Maw right out of the map. Cool. Well, we all kind of hated it. You could call it Hated Maw if you want. But Isle of Dread was also equally kind of disliked, and I'll be honest, I think the community maybe shares this same opinion, which is that this map seems like it could be so cool. I want it to be cool, and I think early on a lot of players saw this map, said I want to play this map, it seems cool, but there are a lot of features of this map that just make it not fun. And it's just a really big map, which means some of your strats, like maybe this proxy strat we're seeing, are a little bit harder to pull off because you have to run across the whole map. Now this dog did see those fiends run by, didn't chase them down, and we got Lancers creeping here. Now what are these fiends trying to do? I think they're just doing a scout, or they're maybe the initial part of this attack force. But now we see, yeah, we see Bob's trying to put down an expo here, and now these Lancers are trying to get in. They finally see this proxy Shroud Stone and say, what's going on here? We got one Lancer going down to it already, and now we got Brutes coming in the back trying to do damage to these Bobs. They're not SUVs, Bobs. And the expansion actually gets up. But we have a battle right in the middle of it. We got Fellhogs right on top here. Fellhogs, Fiends, we got Brutes, and all fighting off against Lancers. two Bobs that were just healing each other there. A Bob trying to heal the command center. And now those Lancers kind of push back, trying to maybe get some of these reinforcements that are coming in. And it looks like this command center is going down. Command post, forgive me. Command centers are StarCraft. Command post. Okay. And it looks like Dutchy's forced to retreat back into his main due to that proxy. Now, what does STylloO do after this? I really like these effigies too, spreading that shroud out, just making his units more effective when fighting against the Vanguard units out here on the Vanguard side of the map. Now, we have Dutchy moving into that speed camp to get the speed boost for his Lancers, which actually helps them, especially when you have melee units like these. Notice how he'll pull back some of the ones that are being focus fired so that the targeting priority changes for the Brutes and the Fiends. That's good micro. But maybe deciding I don't really want to fight off all of those. This Skull chasing... Oh, yeah. The Skull was chasing a weak one down, and I think they were just... Oh, most of them are... One weak one, two... Okay, there are a couple other weak ones there as well. Probably not wanting to lose any of those. The more you can preserve your Vanguard units, the better. Especially with the Vetracy mechanic. Now we have these Lancers coming back, and they reclaim this. The Brute and the Hexen decide to retreat back to the safety of their static D. Now this effigy, again, I don't know if this is a bug or if this is intended behavior, but if you summon one effigy and then you summon another effigy on the shroud of the first effigy, the second one will be permanent. That's what was happening there. They had to kill that one. And it looks like just a full retreat from STylloO. That initial damage really paying for itself already. These two buildings definitely were paid for by the loss of the command post there. And now the delay in, continued delay in mining and building up that expo for Dutchy is certainly in STylloO's favor. Now, it looks like Dutchy is not mining any Therium, but he is going to go for this Luminite base down here. And without Therium, it's hard to tech, it's hard to get your research done to upgrade your units, and it's hard to build units like these Exos here. But I think maybe what he was doing is prioritizing the Luminite here so that he could get this other base up and maybe deal with this over here. So he went over there and cleared out those effigies, but decided not to go all the way in to finish off clearing out that farm and the Shroudstone, which really is giving STylloO a nice advantage. Now, STylloO has got his second base up here, also gone for a third base with interesting shrine positioning. Not seen that before. Going for a double shrine, for a macro shrine here. Again, this was interesting shrine positioning too, because what it allows him to do is have closer mine access here, while there's slightly longer mining access here, especially for these ones going to the top nodes on this mine. And what do we have over here? Exos being added to that strong Lancer front line that he had been building up initially. And now we've got creeping going on from STylloO on his side of the map to increase his income, get some of these passive boosts, maybe help this army. We've added Magmadons to this army. There's really nothing more satisfying in this game than stomping down some trees with Magmadons. Oh, actually, maybe stomping down some Argents, or stomping down some Gaunts, or stomping down a ball of Exos and Lancers. There's really nothing better than that if you can get some good stomps in your engages. You can probably tell I'm an Infernal player, and I just really love that part of the game. They're not even my favorite unit, but they are a lot of fun to use. And looks like he's going to go ahead and creep the health camp with him. Oh, and of course, seeing those stuns get knocked down. You know, that whole camp was creeped just by Stompy Boys. That's fun. That's fun. But now we've got this Lancer and Exo army moving across the map. And it looks like we do have our upgrade, our first upgrade. Yeah, we've got both of our initial upgrades for these units, making them a little bit harder to attack into. We got some nice stomps coming from that lead Magmadon there, leading to a couple Lancers going down. And this is actually a pretty good engage from STylloO, managing to get some of those stomps on top of these units. Although now we're seeing some kiting and a little bit of focus fire from Dutchy. One of those Magmadons has gone down. Those brutes whose job it is to mostly just take those initial hits, they're starting to be disappeared. They're starting to be deleted by that focus fire and kiting. And we're all the way back into the base of Dutchy now. And STylloO decides to turn around and move back, get some Shroud to get some of that white health. But that temporary effigy only has 5 hit points, so easily taken out. And it looks like there's something better than a little bit of Shroud health, and that's going to a health camp and just soaking in the sweet healing juices of the health camp. And why not steal your opponent's health camp if you can? Now, interesting that those mags have been moved out to the front. Are they all high in health? I mean, you obviously want your mags right out in front. Yeah, they were, so none of them needed those healing juices, as I call them. So hopefully now we're going to see Dutchy push back out, and are we going to see a good engage? Those mags really need to get on top of the units if they want. So we got some stomp. Those Lancers are getting stunned, and they're going to, well, one of them survives. But once the stun or the trample is delayed, or is finished, your Magmadons just become sort of bait to be kited. And we're starting to see a critical mass of Exos. Up there in the 8 to 12 range is when it starts getting dangerous, and I'm looking at what might be closer to 15, 20. We got a Weaver on the map. We got one Exo going down thanks to the Weaver yank. But they snipe another Magmadon and another rallying Brute. And even though we've got the benefit of this health camp over here, now it looks like this Weaver, this expensive Weaver is going to go down as well. And now that the Infernal Army tries to push back, we're into full stutter stat mode. And the Exos are retreating back to their own speed camp. And this is a really smart tactic. I've seen Dutchy use this a few times, which is when you have a speed camp like this, you can go soak your units in it. They get that blue swirly, which means they've got the active bonus for 20 seconds, I believe it lasts. And it's a nice little speed boost. Allows you to, when you have nice mobile units like this, you want to use them. And now what we see that was a venom trap that went off. Venom trap set by one of the Hexen. It's an invisible little trap on the ground, a little mine that infests units, which causes them to take that damage over time, but also gives you vision on them for as long as that infests. So that was why Dutchy chose to turn back there. When you get hit by your first venom trap, the whole map starts to look like a minefield, and you think all you see are venom traps everywhere. Well, you can't see them, that's why you think they're everywhere. And you see immediately he adds some dogs into the mix to spot and spy any venom traps that might be hidden out. You like to put them in these choke points and such, so you know, it's a great zoning tool, as well as miasma from these Hexens. Now again, we got some mags out front, maybe a little premature on their stomp, and mostly getting sniped, but those miasma going down, and a smart player runs away from miasma. You see all of them being infested by that miasma. So even though they're not standing it, they're still taking that infest damage. And yeah, they're happy to just run away. A couple more miasmas going down for the creep. You probably only need one, but one of the reasons why you're doing that is it infests all the units and you get a bunch of fiends out of it. Of course, I believe there's probably plague axes, yes, on these gaunts, so it's not necessary in this case, but it also does a lot of DPS, so that's probably also why he used it there. Now these guys are still channeling, and they're being kind of caught out of position. And these rallying Magmadons too also caught out of position. The Hexen walking up and saying, just, you know, please just shoot me down, focus fire me down. And unfortunately, this is a pretty bad engage for STylloO. These Exos so far just doing a ton of damage without getting damaged a lot themselves. Another Magmadon. Finally, we get some miasmas going down, but the Exos micro their way out of the miasma, and now chasing down this army that's in retreat. The Exos able to snipe one of those Hexen, getting that speed boost, and of course the Hexen saying, okay, if you're going to run at me, then eat some miasma until you can kill me, which I think is a smart move. Rather than just sacking your units, you turn them around and fight, get a little bit of damage. I always think that's a good move. But these speedy units now with their medtech buddies here to help heal them up, especially when they all took some of that infest damage from the miasma. This is just going to help them get up to full. And we can see these little medtechs just moving through, casting that heal on all of them, trying to get them up. And now we see this army of Dutchies pushing into STylloO's fourth base here, and taking out some of the static D before it can get down, as well as the other static D. Now melting some of those imps. We see STylloO trying to rush his army back, but here it finally comes. Is the shrine going to go down? Yes, the shrine ends up going down. Even though these speedy Gaunts were able to get on top of this army, those slower brutes finally getting around to the front. They're not really there for DPS. They're there just to tank some shots, hopefully, while those Gaunts can kill and infest some of those units on the front line. And now it's just Gaunt versus Exo, and that's not usually a good match. We've got some miasmas going down. You don't want to step on it, but there's just maybe two little infernal units here. One Magmadon just coming in. Oh, right in the stomps on the miasma. You love to see that, but unfortunately it was focus fired down too quickly. And while I think there were some Exo casualties there was a lot of infernal death. And on top of what, this fourth base was denied. More imps coming over here, maybe trying to restart up this base. Picked off by these Exos who are still camped out here. And we see rallying Exos and Medtechs coming across the map to bolster this army as it now steals some creeps. We've got STylloO's army out trying to gain access of this health camp again. Again, those passive boosts are always benefit when you're fighting your army, fighting against the other opponent's army. And again, Medtech's just soaking up these units here, a few of them with debuffs from those slimes. Okay, so a slight lull while we're creeping. What is Dutchy's plan here? Is he going to continue the pressure, or is he going to move back? I think the presence of these reinforcing units suggests that he is going to keep pressure on this side of the map. Now, this is a nice way to trap him in. Now, that's unfortunately a little overkill with the miasma. Probably misclicks because they don't stack. You really only want one circle in each place. They were well placed miasmas, but just you don't want to start doubling up like that. Now the Exos retreated around to the safer part of the map where they can retreat. This is an interesting stutter step where he's stutter stepping half of his units while the other half are able to just continue to volley in. And that's the end of the match. STylloO GG's out. And again, thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for more Stormgate content.